Man, we live at a crazy time. The amount of competition for your attention is at an all-time high. It's never been anywhere close to this in the history of the world. It's grown at an exponential pace, and our human brain is not meant to absorb this much information. We're not meant to be addicted to this much dopamine coming from our Instagram, our social media, and these algorithms that have basically hacked your attention and your dopamine receptors, and they are there to keep you engaged. So if you find yourself in your life lacking focus and presence and even creativity, at least for me, I've found that it stems from the root cause of not having just mental space and my mind being liberated and frankly bored. Right? It's like almost like boredom is looked at as a bad thing, right? Like especially in our overly stimulated lives today, boredom's kind of the enemy, right? Like we're doing all these things to avoid boredom, right? So we run, like Freud says, toward pleasure. We run from pain. Boredom is often pain because we're sitting there kind of like, okay, now I'm bored. So we immediately go to our cell phone and open a social media to get a hit of dopamine because then we're not bored, right? And so what happens when we're not bored is that our mind is constantly occupied and bombarded, and our inputs are out of our control. So our inputs are externally sourced, and we don't have control over what those are. You don't know what's going to be. You could sort of control your feed, but you don't exactly know what's going to be on your mind at that moment. And so when you're opening your social media, your email, and you're constantly online, we're being bombarded with other people's ideas and attention. Right? So we never have time to think for ourselves and be in our own moments and let our mind kind of process the inputs from the day. And that processing time is when all great ideas happen. You know, you always probably hear people say, oh, I got this idea while I was on a walk. I got this idea while I was washing the dishes. I got this idea while I was in the shower. Or how many ideas do you get in the shower? Like, oh, I was in the shower and I thought of this cool thing. Why? Because you're in the shower, you're doing nothing, right? You don't have to think really, like use a lot of mental bandwidth to like wash or shower, like, put soap on. But you have time for your mind to just kind of process whatever you just did, whatever you just saw, whatever you just absorbed, whatever you're thinking about, whatever challenges. And that's when great ideas happen. When you're walking in nature, the same thing. You work on a problem, you go to nature, come up with great ideas. So the key here, and the reason I'm starting with this rant, is because it's important that you understand the first principles. You understand the reasons behind why focus, presence, and creativity flourish in one's life. And it comes from being bored. It comes from having time to be creative and consciously using our time to allow for serendipity and ideas to happen and to flourish and our mind to process things. So in my life, I noticed that I wasn't having this creative time. I was always on other people's time. And I was doing it. I was my own worst enemy because I was plugged in. I would check my phone as soon as I get up. I would check my email. I would check in with my team. And next thing I know, it's lunch. I usually get up, I meditate, and I work till lunch. And so I would notice that it was lunchtime and I hadn't had that creative inspiration to do things. And I wasn't consciously kind of allowing for that creative space to happen. So I made some profound changes to the way that I operate, and it's immediately came back, right? It's like I've missed it so much. And I realize how much I've been overly stimulated, but it's only when you detox from it that you realize how much, at least for me, it's only when I detox from it that I realize how much I've been overly bombarded with just shit. So here's some changes I made. The first one is I made some singular changes and then I made ongoing changes. So the singular change I made was I needed 3 days completely off. So if you're in this spot, I feel like it's kind of like one of those things where if you want to reset your diet, you just, some people just fast just to kind of clear, their habits, their addictions, their taste buds, and then they start a new diet, right? So I did a fast. I did a mental detox fast. And so for 3 days, I did no work, no social, no email. I just cold turkey stopped, right? And I feel like that for me was a great reset. So I think a 3-day reset was profound. It was huge. It made me realize how many random things that I was putting in. And then when I went back to it on, let's say I took off Friday and then I did Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When I went back on Monday, I had done the detox fast period, and then I could go in and consciously say, what do I want to put back in? But I was doing it consciously. I feel like if you just go from trying to switch cold turkey to like going from bad habit to good habit without that detox period, it's hard to know what you want to put in because you're so overly stimulated that you don't have that freedom and that space where you just have nothing. So a 3-day retreat, timing this with a vacation, I think would go very, very well. So then when I went back, these are the 5 changes I made, right? So the first was no email or social until 11 a.m. So I would check in with my team before lunch. I would check in on my email before lunch. I would check in on my social before lunch. I get a ton of DMs. I get a ton of comments. Managing social is a big part of what I do. But I wouldn't do that until 11 a.m. Why 11 a.m.? Because if I get up and I have 3 hours of creative time in the morning with nothing to do, like no work, nothing on my plate, I have time to be creative, right? And in my job, in my business where I'm teaching, I'm coaching, I'm creating content, I have 3 YouTube channels, I'm writing, I need like space to just like come up with ideas and process ideas and absorb ideas and put those ideas out into the world. Or I need like space in my business to come up with what's next and to focus on the big picture. So allowing myself that time in the morning where I didn't have things on my plate allowed my mind the freedom to like express itself. And whatever that is, whatever comes up through that volcano, that fountain, because I'm overflowing with ideas, I'm a creative, that is when I dedicated time to that. So nothing until 11 a.m. was huge. Number 2 is I did email once or twice a day. And I would do consciously checking my email once or twice a day. And that was huge because normally if you just have email open, it distracts attention. And so you're back and forth between email, like at the excuse of trying to be productive. And then all of that mental free time, right? It's all going back to that first principle of how do I create more mental free time and like mental creativity is always siphoned by checking the email. So I consciously checked my email. And this was huge because it's way more efficient rather than like going back and forth between tasks. And there's studies on this too. You can look into it where it takes the brain a certain amount of time once it switches task from task A to task B to get focused in task B. So that switching is friction and it's highly inefficient to switch back and forth because you don't go right into flow. It takes a while to get into flow. So the point being, if you stay in flow what you're doing in the morning and then you check all of your email at 11 a.m., now suddenly like you can knock out email. I use SaneBox. It's a great email filtering system. And in 30 minutes, I have 5 emails, with crypto and poker and my personal and my business email. So I have 4 or 5 emails. I could check them all and do them in like, I'm a very fast typer, but maybe 30 minutes. And so I can knock all that out from 11 to 11:30. And now I've consciously made the choice to check email. And then I could do that again at 4 before the end of the day. So I give the people time between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. to respond to me. And then I could re-respond to them at 4 p.m. Number 3 is I set a limit on social media to scrolling for 30 minutes a day. And this, number 2, was a reward for my hard work. So I didn't do this in the morning. So I didn't allow my mind to be distracted or like to be hijacked, frankly, by the algorithm. I did this at the end of the day, after work, before dinner, as a reward for my hard work for the day. So some people reward themselves with food. You could reward yourself with whatever, but I reward myself with dopamine, which is social media. You reward yourself with going on social media and scrolling for 30 minutes a day. Number 4 is responding to messages. And I coincided responding to messages with email. So all of this was done in bulk. So like I know that at 11 a.m., I hop on the computer, I have DMs to respond to, which like I said, I get a lot. All of that I respond to twice a day at 11 and 4. I definitely want to do DMs twice a day because like, people are back and forth more often on DM and Telegram and whatever than they are on email. So I did twice a day. Maybe even you want to do 3 times a day for that. But again, after you had productive time in the morning, because you don't want your attention and you don't want problems coming into your life through your cell phone, through an external force early in the morning. So setting conscious time to respond to messages has had a profound impact. And the last one, number 5, has been no Twitter or social media, Facebook if you're on it or whatever, LinkedIn, or email on phone. This has done 2 things. Number 1 is when I'm out, like let's say I go out here, go on a walk and I'm in nature, or I'm just out of the house, I'm at a traffic light, or like you see this all the time, or you have time in between when you are at a cafe and your friend goes to the bathroom and you have 3 minutes while you're waiting for them to go to the bathroom. What do? You pull out your phone and check social media. So instead of having that, I have those 3 minutes for my mind to process the conversation we just had, and maybe I allow that mental space for an idea to come. And then when an idea comes, I can like elaborate on that idea, take a note in my phone, and then come home and create content about it, right? So that allows for that serendipity and that luck of ideas and creativity and ideation to come to me because I allow myself to be bored. So no Twitter, no email on the phone. It also allows for me to be conscious with how I'm directing my time toward these activities. So I'm doing it consciously on my time when I'm on the computer. So I sit down 30 minutes, I have all my DMs I answer to on the computer. So I use Twitter on the computer because it feels more like work. It's not that it's work to respond to you guys. I love you guys. I love responding to you guys. But it's more conscious. It's more done in a concentrated block of time where I'm doing it on my time. It's not coming to me on their time. And when I'm out at a cafe with a friend in between a conversation, when you pull out Twitter, you lack that presence. You lose that focus. You're out of flow. Right? You're on another dopamine hit. So these are the 5 habits I've made. I'd love to hear from you if this helped you, and leave a comment below with your favorite habit, which one you're gonna try, and if you've noticed the same things as well. I'd love to hear from you. I'm still on this journey. I've just kind of implemented these things. They've been working well. Who knows how long I'll keep this up, right? Because it's so easy to get caught back in the dopamine loop of social and all these other things. So subscribe to this channel. I'll put out more content here as well. Thanks for your attention. See you in the next one.